heard the word or come across the word non-toxic or toxin-free and you're like, what does that even mean? That's a good question to ask yourself. You may not know this, but the phrase non-toxic or toxin-free is actually not even regulated by anything. That means that pretty much any brand or any person can say that something is non-toxic or toxin-free and they won't get in trouble for it. So then everybody comes up with their own definition of what toxin-free or non-toxic mean, and I share non-toxic products for you guys to use instead of the toxic ones, but if that doesn't have any regulation behind it, I could really just be spewing anything. Let me tell you what non-toxic and toxin-free means to me personally, because 3 years ago, I decided to use less toxins in my products and I was super overwhelmed what to even look for on the ingredient list, and there was so much conflicting information about if an ingredient or if a product was actually clean, non-toxic. Non-toxic to me personally means that it doesn't have any endocrine disruptors, which are hormone disrupting ingredients, or possible or known carcinogens. There's different levels of non-toxic living. I'm really passionate about living an 80-20 life, so 80% of the time I'm using clean non-toxic products and 20% of the time I'm letting myself live. I'm probably a little bit more like 90-20, but I think 80-20 is the perfect rule of thumb to live by. I personally chose to really focus on carcinogens and endocrine disruptors because those are two things that are easy to find on the ingredient label, make the most sense to me, and there's actual studies to back it up. One unfortunate thing about non-toxic or the words non-toxic not being regulated is that brands can greenwash. The term greenwashing means that brands or companies or any product can use terms like natural or non-toxic or botanicals to make it seem like it's a clean product when really it's not. Here's a good example of a brand that does this. They use the word raw to make it seem more natural. A lot of times it's brands using different colors, different pictures, different words like real botanical, when really this product doesn't have any real botanicals, it's all synthetic fragrance. That messes with your hormones. This brand in particular uses known parabens in their products, even though they put the word fragrance-free on there, or they use this little image that makes it seem more natural. It's some of the worst. And how do you know what brands to trust? How do you know what to look for on the ingredient label? And more importantly, I feel like once you see something on the ingredient label, how do you determine if it's actually toxic or not? A lot of information on the internet, and a lot of it is just opinions about different ingredients. So when I went non-toxic, I really wanted to make sure that I found actual hard proof that this ingredient could do harm on my body. And real proof to me means that there's actually a published, cited study that they did to prove that it's toxic. I found PubMed and it's been a lifesaver for me. You can search any ingredient, anything, and a bunch of studies will pop up. So I'm just gonna do a really common one and do parabens. As you can see here, there are numerous, I could keep scrolling and scrolling, published studies that are cited on the toxicity of parabens. I'll read some of the studies. I'll make sure that it's actually like a viable study, and then I'll determine whether I want to personally use it or not. Once I started finding the studies myself, that really took out the middleman and let me come to my own opinion about what ingredients not to use. I feel like I'm a really trustworthy source and a really realistic source for telling you about different ingredients and different product swaps to make. I was slowly making a list on my phone, just in my notes app, of ingredients to avoid. This is before I started all of this and just doing it for myself. And then I started sharing online, and I learned that it's really hard to read ingredient labels and it's really overwhelming for a lot of you, just like it was for me in the beginning. Then I created this free list that you guys can download. It's in my bio if you want it, of ingredients to avoid, so you can just pull this out instead of having to decipher every ingredient label. If you're just starting out, a really easy rule of thumb, especially for like skincare products that you use in your home, like your candles, making sure that you don't use any synthetic fragrance. Synthetic fragrance is one term that if you stop using products with that word fragrance on there, you're really gonna eliminate so many toxins in your product. Different parabens, different phthalates, mostly endocrine disruptors, but even some carcinogens. Overall, no, non-toxic or toxin-free are not regulated by anything. Anybody can say that, which is really frustrating, I know, and there's so much greenwashing, especially with the products on the store shelf. So download the list or start reading studies yourself, but get empowered and don't listen to anybody on the internet.